In this era of Me Too, survivors of sexual assault have been coming forward with their personal stories, sometimes from decades ago. This week, POV premieres the documentary, The Apology. It follows the journey of three former, quote, comfort women who 70 years ago were forced into sexual slavery during World War II. Decades after living in silence, they too came forward years ago, sparking a Me Too movement of their generation. Tiffany Chung is the director of the POV documentary, The Apology. She joins us now. The idea of comfort women, I mean, that's a euphemism. These were sex slaves. Let's just kind of be upfront about that. What happened to most of them? How many were there?
Over 200,000 young women and girls were kidnapped and coerced into these military sexual slavery system. It was an institutionalized system that was really, at the end of the day, protecting the soldiers from contracting venereal diseases. So doctors and nurses were brought in not to protect the women, but to actually protect the soldiers so they can actually continue to fight.
You have an ability to look into the lives of three very different women who tell you very different stories. The Chinese character in your film, what happened to her?
Grandma Cao had such a horrific story. Not only was she taken from her village, only 2 miles away from her home, but she got impregnated twice while she was taken. And during those pregnancies, she actually aborted the babies herself because she knew that she couldn't bring the children that she would give birth back to her village. And so that happened to her twice while she was at the comfort station. And by the time she had returned back home, she was unable to conceive a child ever again.
And you are able to document the kind of conversations that's happening with her family.
While we were making the film, it was to my surprise that her adopted children, her daughter that she lives very close to, didn't know anything about this. And so really, the point of making the apology was to understand the complexities of even telling these horrific stories to the people closest to you, to the people that you love. And I think for today, we need to understand those complexities, to understand why it takes so long and to have that courage to be able to share your stories publicly even.
And there's a woman from the Philippines that you profile. She's carrying the guilt of all this for not revealing this to her now dead husband.
She waited till her husband passed away for all her children to leave her nest, for her to even join a group of survivors, and she was always scared that this would break her family. Out of all the three grandmothers that we filmed, she was one that was able to get married, was able to birth her own children, to have this family. And so in many ways you can think that she had so much to lose if she had come out while her husband was alive, while her children were still living with her.
Will you ever tell your children?
Never. I never truly even one. They will be ashamed of me. They will be ashamed of me, I know. They will, yes.
So that weight of, shame and stigma on her shoulder carried over and over and over all these years till she was 80 years old. And when she revealed to me that she wanted to one day, her wish was to one day tell her children.
Where does the film go from here? Now that it's being screened on PBS, it's been running for a couple of years and screenings around the country, what do you do with it? What do you hope with it?
I mean, I'm hoping that with the rise of the Me Too movement and Time's Up movement, that we as a collective community and global community can see that we can't ignore past issues and past atrocities, that if we just let this go, if we don't address this, that, it just shows, how women are viewed in society still today. And that's why if we can't recognize this, history will repeat itself. And the grandmothers fight today not just for the justice that they've been seeking for, but also for the next generation. And so really it's our collective responsibility to unite together to fight with them.
I want to also ask, you've become an honorary granddaughter to many of these women, and you also have kind of a personal journey while you're making this over a 6-year period. You were a survivor of sexual assault when you were a child. Watching these women and what they've lived through, what did it teach you?
These grandmothers taught me so much about what resilience looks like, what courage looks like, perseverance, sacrifice, to truly understand, the weight of what shame looks like on an 80-year-old woman, and to see them overcome that has brought me so much inspiration that I never thought would happen while making this film. You know, I always thought that it would just be me helping to share their stories, but really, they've helped me. They've helped me come to terms with a lot of the things that I had gone through. And my hope is that this film also helps many other people as well, many other women and people that have a story that they want to share, that they too are looking for that courage and inspiration to also share their story. So I hope that that also resonates with many people around the world as well.
There's a place where they have weekly demonstrations outside the Japanese embassy about this. There's actually a statue commemorating this. Let's take a look at a clip.
이 첫차 수요 시위는 결코 완성도 아니고요, 끝도 아닙니다. 92년 1월 8일 이곳에서 처음에 수요 시위를 할 때 이곳은 정말로 우리 할머니들과 우리 일하는 여성들 몇 분뿐이었었습니다. 우리 앞길에 가야 할 길이 너무나 멀다는 것이고 우리가 해야 할 일들이 굉장히 많다는 것을 의미하죠. 오늘 아침에 여러분이 보시는 이곳에 평화비가 설치되었습니다. 새벽부터 마음 졸이며 과연 세울 수 있을까 하는 그런 걱정들을 가지면서 평화비를 세웠습니다. 이곳 일본 대사관 평화를 올 한 해 시작을 하면서 여러분들이 뜻을 모으고 마음을 모아준 그 정성이 이렇게 실현이 되었습니다.
When you look across that sea of protesters, that's not what you expect the young rabble-rousers to be. These are actual grandmas that have survived this, and they're coming on a weekly basis to keep pressing this issue.
Every Wednesday, rain or shine, since 1992, they've been demonstrating outside the Japanese embassy in Seoul, Korea. And to see that footage again, I mean, it was such a powerful day, but when we were talking to Grandma Gil prior to the demonstration, I asked her how she felt, and she said, sadness. Sadness that back then when we filmed that, it was a 1,000th. It's like, why has it taken 1,000th demonstration and we're still going on? And it's still happening today. We're still demonstrating.
What is the sort of current status of relations between Japan and all these different countries? In 2015, there was kind of a billion-yen settlement that they thought would try to move things forward. But just this, just a few weeks ago, you've got the city of Osaka cutting ties with the city of San Francisco, their sister cities relationship, because of one of these statues on the West Coast.
Right now, as more people are understanding the history and the issues with the grandmother still fighting for an apology even after the 2015 agreement between the two governments. More countries are supporting with a bronze statue, erecting it into their own cities everywhere. However, because they're doing that, the Japanese government still doesn't want to acknowledge it. In fact, wants to remove these statues and not take the ownership and responsibility of how they actually, drove the helm behind this institutionalized sexual slavery system. And so that still goes on today. That's still happening today, unfortunately. But, with movements like the Me Too campaign and like everything that's happening globally, I think that more and more people are standing behind this movement and standing behind these statues and making sure that they aren't removed, because it really is symbolizing, how women are viewed in society today. It's very much a global issue.
How much of a difference was the composition of the staff, at least the gender of the staff, in making this film and the final product that we have?
It's huge. The apology was made with the National Film Board of Canada, with an incredible production team, our producer Anita Lee, our editor Mary Stephen, composer Leslie Barber. Majority of the staff are incredible pioneer female filmmakers themselves, and to have that female lens, to be able to capture the nuances and the aftermath of what these women had gone through and what their dynamics are with the family is so important for people to understand, to connect with the grandmother stories, to connect with these issues, and to not isolate this issue as an Asian issue, as a historical issue, to truly connect with them as people first.
The documentary is called The Apology. Tiffany Shung, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.